Hey, this is Rob Ansbach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. I have one of the greatest guests I can have on this show. She's fabulous, and she's actually the queen of the perfect pitch. And if you know anything about me, you know that I don't like pitches sliding into my DMs. So I want to welcome Forbes Riley to the show. Now she's just leaving already. She said I
Ah,
had
right.
it.
I gotta turn on some more lights so I can be bright enough. Yeah, I don't like when people slide because pitches. They're not. You should never see a pitch coming. Pitch is conversation. Pitch is exciting, engaging, and enrolling. I seduce people. That's my secret. I just get you to do what I want because I want you to. Yeah. Okay. Maybe it's not quite that easy.
No, but you've been around the block once or twice before. You know the system, and social media has given people the ability to sell stuff that they shouldn't be selling, and oh my God, the templates that they use are horrible, and most of them end up in my Rob versus books because I just the arguments I have with these people on trying to get them to learn sales tactics of some sort, they just don't get it.
No, they don't. And it's when as soon as somebody does a pitch for me, they go into this higher voice, going, "Hey, let me tell you something." It's like, is that what you think we did from television? So, and actually, so Rob, I'll play a game with you before we get into who I am. Give me some, pitch me something on your desk. What do you got?
What do I got? I got a phone.
Okay, go for it.
I got a
20 seconds.
mouse.
Either one, 20 seconds. Just give me a little pitch. Let me see what you do.
Me pitch. I hate pitching.
Well, no, you can't say that. You pitch me to be on this show. No, no,
No, I just asked you to be on this show.
no, that is a pitch, and I think that's the difference. And I want all of your audience to hear. A pitch is nothing more than asking someone to do something.
Mhm.
How you creatively ask them to do it. You pitched me to be on your show. You made it worthwhile to me to be here. You pitch your audience to listen to you, to engage. You can pitch anything you want. The fact that it becomes a product or a service should be no different than your books.
Right.
So what it comes down to is understanding what other people want. The problem that I have with most people is they get something they've done or they've created or they're bought into, and they want us. You need this, Rob. You need this new noni juice, this vitamin, this whatever I've got. And you're like, dude, back off. But if I allowed you to want what I have, for example, I have something on my desk. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to ask you to raise your arm. Rob, raise your arm like this. Feel the underneath of your arm. Is it nice and tight or is it a little wiggly jiggly, right?
Yeah, I
What
got
if I
some wiggle
told you?
here. Gotta work on
What
that.
if I told you that I created a product that it rotates so fast that in just 5 minutes of doing this, literally 5 minutes, there's so much tension here. You do both sides of these sitting in a Zoom call by summer, which is about 2 months from now, you could be tremendously tighter. Would you want something like that?
Yeah.
I got you to say yes. That is the answer to a perfect pitch.
She's a
That
Jedi.
I am a Jedi, and I'll tell you what, I do that with everybody's product or service. I can take anything that you've got that you want someone else to have and make and craft you the perfect pitch.
And that's it. That's it. That's a show.
You know what? I'm gonna hijack your broadcast because I don't think people really have any idea who I am. I know you've been stalking me like crazy. I see your name. No, just kidding. We've been friends for a long time. And what's exciting, I don't see this. Let's see. Allow Zoom to share your screen. Oh, I just had to change my settings, and now I'm noticing that they may have changed.
Yeah, all the buttons changed.
Oh,
It's crazy.
wow. So everything just changed. So give me a second. In fact, you might want to do this for me, but I'll go back into my preferences. Um, I have been on television for almost 30 years. I guess would that be fair to say? Yeah, it's a long time.
And that's weird because you just celebrated your 29th birthday.
Oh, you are. See, now you're seducing me. You have to be so careful. So what I wanted to say though is that you've seen me, and I don't know that your audience realizes it, but you've seen me for decades. I've done 194 infomercials, and in my career, I've grossed a little over $2.5 billion in product sales.
Oh,
So
is
when it
that it?
comes I mean, it's a tremendous number, and it's been over decades. I didn't do it overnight, although I did sell 64,000 of these in one day on home shopping and got a $1.2 million check. On
Wow.
that alone, I would say, you want to know what does she know that I don't know? And I know some true secrets, tips, and tricks that most people will never ever have access to. So I'm going to see if I can now play this as I just stopped and started my whole computer. Um, so I do this for a living. Every day I do this, and today because I do something different, it's giving me a hard time.
Yeah, I have that effect on people.
Is that it? Is it all you?
That's me.
So if you want to start, so I'm excited to show your audience something that I don't know that you've seen. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Audio Jungle.
Let's give it up for Forbes Riley!
The reason you don't have what you want is you don't know what it is. I've grossed $2.5 billion by tweaking people's pitches on infomercials. You hear things differently than I do. I hear money every time somebody talks. I hear enrollment, engagement.
Hi, I'm Forbes Riley, and today we've got a great product for you. Take a look at this.
She's got me working out, or what are these called?
Called a SpinGYM.
She launched her multi-million-dollar company by mortgaging her house and her kids' education fund. She knew it was going to happen.
I think pitch is everything. I don't care what kind of product that you've got. If you don't know how to pitch or articulate it, you will go nowhere. I coach CEOs of Fortune 100 companies who have stood there and told me, Forbes, you pitch my company better than my marketing team. You don't get to sit home and wait for the phone to ring. No, it doesn't really work that way. You write down action steps. You get a mentor. You find someone who's done what you've done, and you ask them how they did it. If you dream it and you hold it to be true, you keep driving towards that. You keep talking about that dream, and actually you keep taking action, and then one day you're like, oh my God, how did I do that? I started out as an actress in Hollywood and a TV host, everything from the X Games to my own talk show. And about 20 years ago, I took the entrepreneurial route. I ended up on Home Shopping. I'm tired of seeing women suffer. I grew up heavy my whole life. My mom was 260 pounds and she was miserable. You want to be yourself. I appreciate that you want your family, that you want to be glamorous and gorgeous and fun and have people tell you that you're wonderful, don't you? You want all those things. Okay, I can't be the one to tell you that. You need to be the one to own that. And that's where your success lies. When someone says to you, what do? They do not care what you do. They don't? No, they care what you can do for them. It's never the resources. It's not your time or your money. Billionaires have no more time than you and I have. So how do they do it? What is the key to the success? And I will tell you, what do you think of that? Was that a good video worth waiting for?
It was, and now I want to go out and get a Forbes tattoo on my thigh.
Yeah, no, that was on his ass. That was absolutely on his ass. I had a TV show called Forbes Living that I do talk show. And this was a very ornery kid. He was a silver medalist in the Olympics when it came to snowboarding, and he created the company Grenade. And I coached him the night before about what he should do and what he shouldn't do, and he just fought me at every turn. And I don't know quite what I said to him, but we left, and I was like, wow, that was an interesting argumentative concept. And on the way out, he said, will you sign your name on this for me? I'm like, all right. And he went to a tattoo parlor that night, came back, and he says, truly, he said, I want you to be my mentor. He said, I learned a very valuable lesson being around you about how important your words are. And then when I saw it and I pulled down his pants, I was like, oh my God.
And you got to say yes because he just did it.
I got to say yes. I'm hoping years later it says it's a big flower garden or something other than my name on his ass. But there you go. My team thought that was very interesting. In fact, I made everybody. There's a TV series with Kevin Costner called Yellowstone. They all have to brand themselves. I'm like, yeah, just my name on your ass is fine.
Let's talk about SpinGYM because, did that put you on the map? I mean,
oh, no. I was on the map way before SpinGYM. In fact, SpinGYM almost destroyed me. Yeah, no, having that was powerful. Deciding you want to do your own thing. No, you saw a clip of it in the early 1990s. I had already been an actress. I'd been on soap operas and Broadway with Christopher Reeve. I was definitely going down the I'm going to be Julia Roberts, Sandra Bullock path, and would have been very happy getting to that status. Mm-hmm. But I guess it just wasn't in the cards. And while I was doing this in the 80s in New York City, I went off to Club Med and I discovered—
She's not even that old. Don't think about that.
It doesn't matter. I was around there in those decades, and I own that. You can't have achieved all that I have if you haven't lived as long as I have. I helped start the X Games. Did you know that? Do you love the X Games?
I watched the X Games. I didn't know you were part of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, this is the crazy thing that without YouTube, which happened long before I came into the world here, I had an entire— I mean, if I could have been such an internet superstar because of all that I'd achieved. Here, you're going to get a kick out of this. You remember, Stuart? So the X Games was 1996, and I was there as a host, very unqualified for the job, by the way.
We grinded on the street,
Rode the luge,
and we sky surfed from 13,000 feet.
Ooh, I'm Forbes Riley.
I'm Stuart Scott. We'll be extreme again tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Now, the crazy thing about this is, I mean, I did a lot of the interviews
Sure, one for you, one for me, and maybe somebody else.
Ooh, crazy how I got this, and I'll share that in just a second. But when I never watched, so this is literally 1995. We're in Providence, Rhode Island, and
represents new age sports values, the first ever extreme games. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stuart Scott. You know, athletes in alternative sports have been craving a stage where they can prove, just like football and basketball players, they are serious competitors who leave as much sweat on the playing field as anyone. And a look ahead to the next day. Sharing in on the fun, my Extreme Games partner in crime, Forbes Riley. Oh, Forbes.
Hey, Stuart, believe it or not, this place was not just constructed for the extreme games.
now the crazy thing about this is that was live.
Mhm.
And I got that because I was doing stand-up comedy at ski resorts, which is another long story. But I had this unending desire to be noticed and to be part of things and a great ability to communicate. So there I am doing stand-up comedy at ski resorts for 10 years. Jose Cuervo Games of Winter, we call them. I was brought to you by a major alcohol company. If you drink, I'm funny. And it was just one of those things that I would do on weekends. And I skied every ski resort in the entire country. But I'm going to go back to even how I got that job. I didn't know how to ski. I wanted to. It was one of the things on my bucket list in my 20s, but we could never afford it. I grew up without any money. My parents were very hardworking, and my dad spent 3 years in the hospital. He had a horrific accident that cut off the front of his hand. And so money was always an issue in my life. And I was doing, pretty well as an actress. But I had this thing, like every winter, I was like, what is this ski thing? I had this crazy fantasy, Rob, that I think you can appreciate. When I was younger, I wanted to be James Bond. I know that sounds crazy. I didn't want to be a Bond girl. I wanted to have all the adventures of this crazy undercover spy, from, those water jet things underneath to snowmobiles and skiing. And I've had this ability that when I think of something, usually something shows up. Well, in this case, I opened the newspaper and there was an ad for a thing called Ski View. A guy had created an advertising platform. On lift towers, he built billboards. And they were looking for someone to do what was called a bar party at 4 o'clock when the ski resort shuts down. How do you keep people engaged, drinking in the bar? And so they said, we're going to do this Jose Cuervo Games of Winter. And they took all my knowledge from working at Club Med, and we made this comedy game show. Well, it was very adventurous. It also had an athletic element to it. You literally had a 3-on-3 co-ed snow volleyball game that I was outdoor hosting. And one day ESPN had gotten wind of what we were doing, and they made a little half-hour special out of it called the ESPN2 whatever. And they wouldn't let me host it because I couldn't work for ESPN. I couldn't use the flag because I didn't work for them. Well, they hired a guy named Rob Francis. I'm just escaping for a second. Your name, Rob. His last name was Francis. Anyway, he was a football player for a team I'd never heard of called the Patriots, and he's from Hawaii. And he shows up not at the meeting when he's supposed to, but the next morning walks in going, all right, so tell me what I'm doing. And I'm like, no, I'll meet you out on the field. And I had this sense he liked me. And we were like, he's like, hey, everybody, welcome to the Jose Cuervo Games of Winter. Here's my co-host, Forbes Riley. Forbes, what's going on? And he hands me the microphone. They explicitly said, don't give her. And I pretty much never gave it back. And we had a blast. We were funny. We were outrageous. We had a cardboard box race. We did things. No one had ever seen anything like I did. And I was like, that's nice. A year later, I get a phone call. I'm about to get married. The phone rings. It's like, hi, is this Forbes Riley? I'm like, yes, this is the lawyer from ESPN. We'd like to offer you $75,000 for 2 weeks to host the Extreme Games. To which I said, who the fuck is this? Excuse me? What? And they're like, X Games, da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, this is a joke. Who is this? And the poor lawyer was like, look, I'm going to give you a producer because, like, lady, you're nuts. I couldn't comprehend why somebody was off. I don't know anything about sports. That's a whole lot of money. And they said, basically, look, we watched this videotape of you. We've had it. We're looking for something to put you into because you're amazing. And I'm like, okay. And then they send me this binder of athletes, 300. I don't know anything about sports, Rob. My dad never watch football, but I didn't know anything about any of the sports. And then 300, and then all these sports like street lugeing, BMX bike, half pipe. I'm like, they're going to fire me when they realize they've hired the wrong girl. I don't know anything about this. And I showed up on this $10 million set. They had production trucks. I mean, ESPN is so top notch. And I walk in going, okay, they're going to fire me. Don't even unpack your bags. And then, like the piece that you saw there, apparently I was good, but all of that was live. And so I never saw how good I was.
Hmm.
I thought they were going to fire me for 6 consecutive years. They kept hiring back, and I kept thinking, oh God, I don't know why they keep hiring. And it was such self-deprecating. It's taken so long in my life to truly understand how talented I am. And one day there was this thing that came along called YouTube. And I hired an editor to take these 3/4 inch professional 1/2 inch videos and put them up on YouTube. And I, just like you, watched it and thought, oh my God, she's really good. And I wish that I had known any of that, because it would have eased my anxiety and helped me out a lot. Because when you're an actress and a TV host, you do spend a lot of your time getting rejected. You're too old, you're too young, you're too pretty, you're too fat, you're too, what doesn't matter? You look like my sister, I don't want to hire you. And you internalize a lot of that. And so a lot of my personal issues that I struggled with self-esteem, like so many people can relate, came from being an actress, putting myself out there, and not appreciating that when I got a job, that I was the right person for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been an interesting conversation that has taken me through my 30s and my 40s, where I finally woke up one day and said, I think you're good at this. And it was a weird revelation. And then I started teaching what I know, which is where I am in my life now, where I give back, I coach, I own a big television studio. I just became a doctor, or I got an honorary doctorate and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the President of the United States.
That is awesome.
Well, because of all this need to please, this need to get it right, I work all the time. I am absolutely a workaholic who also likes to play. I mean, I took 2 months off. I was doing all my masterminds in Costa Rica. I went off and hosted a big crypto thing in Dubai. So for me, work and play have always been hand in hand. I mean, I worked on my honeymoon. I got hired to host a giant corporate event at the Grand Wailea in Hawaii for one night, and they paid for 2 weeks for me to be in Hawaii. I'm like, that works.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's the opposite. I don't give a shit what people think of me. And I never did. I mean, and I think that's what the whole Rob versus books was, because I threw my sarcasm, against, all these people that were trying to scam me. They're morons, lousy customer service. And I put those adventures in the books. And I just had someone reach out and say, we want to turn your books into a TV show. And I thought, that's great. I mean, it was never something that I thought would get that far. But I've produced 36 books in 9 years. I write books for other people. I help them get their authority out there.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I do a lot of personal development work in my trainings. What's your first memory in life?
What's my first memory in life?
Yeah.
Probably when I was like 3 years old, and it was my birthday party, and I think I got pissed off at somebody, and you're 3 years old, you throw a tantrum, and I walked out the house, and I'm in the middle of the yard by myself, and I just sat down. I'm like, this is it. This is my party.
Well, let me ask you a question. What decision did you make about life based on that moment?
Probably that I can do this on my own.
Bingo. So I got to tell you something, Rob. I've asked that question thousands of times.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, it's why you are who you are. A lot of people have a first memory of their parents fighting, not being heard, being maybe molested, and their definitions and then the decision they make are, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I don't trust people. And there's a lot of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
You, and I know that's by just the kind of work that you're up to, you had a decision that probably 5% of people have that's positive to start their lives. Because I teach that memories are not real, but the decision that you make about them is part of the hard drive of your operating system. So you pretty much said at 3, can you imagine, and how this permeated through your entire life? I can do this on my own. You're not waiting to please anybody. You're not, you're writing books, you're doing things. And I got to tell you, that's very positive. Bill Walsh is another one who had a very positive, and I remember them. I mean, I've got a weird photographic memory. Bill's was that he was also about 4 or 5 years old, and he rode his own tricycle or a bicycle to kindergarten in Chicago. And I thought, you did what? And his decision was, I can do whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and look what he built an empire based on, I can do whatever I want. I'd actually like to ask, people like Branson and even Oprah, what their first decision was, because it is what colors your entire life. And what I do as part of a side hustle that I love is I shatter people's limiting beliefs based on their past.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people get to a certain point in life and start sabotaging themselves because their hard drive is miswired for what they want now as an adult. And I simply say, you'd never let your 3-year-old drive your car, Why are you letting your 3-year-old drive your life?
Mhm.
Your decision, I wouldn't change.
Yeah. I mean, I come across entrepreneurs all the time. They're always blaming somebody for something, and I'm like, get over it. I mean, that happened so long ago. Change
Now,
how you think, but
okay,
they
and
they
here's the thing.
refuse to.
Well, it's not that they refuse, Rob, is that you're wired one way. And it's like saying, well, just rewire yourself. And I'm going to tell you from experience, having done this thing for almost 35 years, you cannot rewire yourself. You cannot coach yourself to be an Olympic athlete. No matter how good you are, you need someone outside of you to have that external push because you left to your own devices only want to go so far.
Mhm.
And then you hit a wall and it takes another entity. So anytime you've got an entrepreneur who is that stuck, send them my way. My breakthrough training has 100% results,
Wow.
100% money back guarantee. I've never had to pay anybody back. And I do it sometimes in public. Like I did it just in front of my mastermind the other day in front of 200 people because I can feel when somebody's that stuck and there's some yelling and screaming and whatever. But when they're through the other side of it, it is like they see life through a different color lens.
Yeah. So how did you go from being an actor, a speaker, I'm not a speaker, but a host to teaching people how to do sales pitches?
Well, let's go back to how I became a host at all. I'm just an actress, right? Well,
Mhm.
one day I walk into a studio and there's an audition. You think about it, Leo DiCaprio was a sitcom actor on Family Ties before he walked into an audition for Titanic,
Mhm.
which changed his entire life. And by the way, that movie took 2 years to write, to produce, and no one thought it was going to go anywhere. So if it had failed, you'd never heard of Leo. I guarantee it. But one moment in that kind of a business can shift everything. One role, one Oscar, one whatever. Well, I walked into a room and there was a pen sitting on a desk, and it said in a piece of paper, "Sell the camera this pen." I thought it was a joke. I don't like to sell. I hate sales on every level. It makes me uncomfortable, especially dealing with money.
Mhm.
So I thought it was a joke. And I said, the funny thing about pens, well, when I was in college, I got there, I was really young. I was 16 years old. And my mom used to write me in purple ink every day, these longhand notes signed "Love Mommy." I'd run to the mailbox and I realized that a pen like this can reach out and touch somebody's heart. Now, a traditional pitch is like, this pen is made out of silver and black. And Jake, a body by Jake, walks out from the camera, grabs my face, "You're going to make me a lot of money." And I'm like, okay. And you saw a little clip of it. But this was the time when cable television had just started. Home shopping had not yet happened. And I was the pioneer of selling health and fitness products on television for 5 years. I sold 1,500 different fitness products. From that spawned infomercials. And now I was asked to do these half-hour shows selling products for Billy Blanks, for Tony Little, for all kinds. I mean, it was amazing what happened from this. And I hosted the first 35 infomercials ever made. And even at that point, there's never been a female who's done more infomercials. A lot of the people that you associate with that industry are guys.
Mhm.
And rightfully so, because if a woman is kind of hawking things and yelling and screaming and like Billy Mays, you don't want women to do that. When women get loud, we sound like your sister, your mother, your girlfriend, your wife, your ex. It's annoying. So I created this concept of storytelling in half-hour infomercials and becoming more engaging and discovering what is the arc, setting up the problem, providing testimonial, social proof, and then having, but wait, there's more, and really stacking your value stack. And it was not just me at that time. It was Kevin Harrington and some of the people from Shark Tank. But there was this consciousness that happened, and I was right in the middle of it as one of the key people in the center as the host.
Mhm.
And what happened was at some point I said, I know things other people don't know. I'd love to teach this. And I started writing pitch books and holding seminars. And I do it. I mean, now it's become a massive industry. I have, 12,000 students since last year in my course. My daughter stepped in, and this is fascinating. My daughter started digital marketing when she was 12. She made her first $10,000 like in a month and thought, this is interesting. And then we took her out of school to come to all my speaking events because this morphed into I want to be a speaker and meeting people like Les Brown and Deepak Chopra and Damon John and people who took me under their wings. And wow, as a woman, there's not a lot of you running around. I'm like, well, I mean, think about that. When you think of motivational speakers, who do you think of?
Who do I think of? Brian Tracy. I think of Dan Kennedy. And a lot of people don't know Dan, but he's been around. And
Tony Robbins. Give me
Tony Robbins. Yeah.
Give me one or two more, because so far you're naming only men. You don't have any women in there?
Lee Miltier is one of my friends. I don't know if you know Lee. She's a big motivational speaker. She's in the Dan Kennedy world. Lee Miltier.
Okay.
And
Think that everybody knows her name? No,
not everybody. No.
right? So I'm thinking of all the men that people know, but there's not a lot of. Why is that? There's
Right.
not a lot of women out there. Do you have any theories on that?
I don't. I mean, I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I used to.
Well, not even TV. So here's what happened to me. I was on Clubhouse not long ago, and I said that. I said the truth is there are not a lot of female speakers, and we're just as powerful as men, or are we? I don't really know. I know I've got something to say, and this was on Clubhouse last year. The next morning, I woke up and there was an email going, we've got something we would love you to do. Would you be willing to be a keynote speaker? And I said, sure. And guess what? This showed up in my inbox.
Nice.
I am the female between Damon John, Deepak, Jack Canfield, and Les Brown. There's no. It's like, all right, there's one or two women up there, but not a lot. It's like, damn, wait, what did it happen here? How did that happen so fast? This is happening next month. Every month since then, that's me with Jack and Sharon Lecter and John Asseroff from The Secret and Les Brown. I've definitely been put in a very powerful position. When the reason I stayed in that position is because I can sell. You don't get to be on that stage unless you're really famous and not close sales. And so that was the other thing. It's like, wow, this is fascinating. So I've been doing that every month for the last 2 years. 30,000 students every time we do this all around the globe. And so it shifted my career yet again and definitely put me way bigger on the map than I've ever been.
Yeah, and the thing is, it all comes down to storytelling.
Yes, it does.
And you've shared your story time and time and time again, but you've also backed it up with, all the things that you're doing, and people are like, wow.
Well, it's funny. We go back to my childhood. We had to do a one-person show when I was in high school, and people took all kind of different characters. Somebody played Jesus, I think, but actors or whatever you would know. And I decided to do Hans Christian Andersen.
Wow.
And he's a storyteller. I know. I was 15 years old when I thought of that, and it really came down to understanding how to take people on a journey. And then I remember I told my mom when I was in my early 20s, I just finished starring in my first movie. I'm not sure that you love this one, but it's called Splatter University.
Never
Where the
heard
school
of it.
colors are blood red. Oh, come on. Go look up on YouTube. It's a horror film. I star in it. It was my first audition. And you get a laugh out of it. And I said to my mom, I found Europe on $20 a day, an old book by Arthur Fromer. And I said, Mom, I can afford a one-way ticket to Europe, and who knows how long I'm going to last, but I want to tear out every page of every sightseeing thing and come home when I have a cover. And she was very small-minded and was like, oh my, you're going to do what? Long before cell phones, no communication, no internet. And I took off, and I spent 6 months traveling around collecting stories, jumping off trains in Figueres, Spain to see a Salvador Dali museum, taking the Andrea Doria from Norway to Scotland. I mean, I did crazy shit because I wanted to tell my kids and my grandkids the greatest story of my life, and I hadn't written anything at that point. And then it became important, and I think we all have this, and you probably teach this when it comes to storytelling, is to go back, and the story is one part, but the life lesson that you can pull out of it so it's interesting to someone else is the best part.
The first chapter of my very first book, which was Share, is all about telling your story. And it's the most important thing that you have to do as an entrepreneur, to convince somebody to know, like, trust you, but also feel safe with you.
Right. And most people either don't think they have a story to tell. When I started, I looked at speakers on stage and thought, I've got nothing to talk about. Now, years later, you can't shut me up.
That's funny though. But I look at you now, and you're just this dynamic person, and nobody would know that you had this incredible backstory.
Well, I'll tell you what, it even gets more crazy because there's a lot of tragedy in my backstory. And this is part of the things that I teach. I have a lot of isms that I live by. And one of them is that you're the sum of the obstacles you overcome. And so when I was little, my dad had this horrible accident. I was an ugly little girl who had buck teeth and braces. And for 2 years, I had a tongue crusher in my mouth. I talked like this. Yeah, made me very, very unpopular. And I spent a lot of time dreaming. And I'm glad that I am who I am, but you couldn't have told me that growing up because it was very lonely and it was very scary. And then when I got to a certain age, I was 40, both my parents got cancer about the same time. Within a year, they died. I raised a little boy from South Central with my ex-husband for 12 years. He was murdered. My picture was on the cover of the LA Times. You never want to see a photo like that. You all see the shootings and you go, oh, that's so, too bad for somebody else. Well, I was that story. And I remember how horrific that is. And so to pull yourself up and want to keep going is what I share with people. because what you're looking at is the tip of a very, very large, deep, tragic iceberg. I've hit a lot of bumps. I almost lost my entire company because of U.S. Customs and something that they wanted to do to railroad me. A lot of things I didn't know along the way. I wish I had asked for help more. I was a perfectionist who thought you would judge me. And now I've come to discover the word that I grew up hating the most was vulnerable. People go, "You have such a wall around you. You're not vulnerable." I'm like, "Screw you. What are you talking about?" And now I come to understand that my flaws are often the most attractive part because it reminds you that nobody's perfect.
Right.
And even though I love to put on a very put together exterior, and I'm proud of who I am and how I look, and I really am. I mean, I built this. I'm 62 years old. And I got to say, with two 19-year-olds and a new almost husband, I haven't quite sealed that deal yet. I have to get divorced first. He's already in. It's been 5 years. But I love when I tell people, Rob, you want to hear how shallow I can be sometimes? I play a little game. People always, "Oh, you have a picture of your fiance?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." In fact, if you don't say wow when you see him, I'll give you $100. And so then I pop up my picture of my fiance and I go, "Huh, do I have to pay you?"
I'm not saying wow.
I know. There's not a whole lot of things you can say to these photos. I've never seen anybody who looks like him. He's pretty extraordinary, and he's definitely my better half on some level. So did I win at the end of this? Yeah. Because I had been raising kids as a single mom for 10 years. And I very specifically said I did not want to fall in love during those 10 years because I understand the dynamics of relationships. If you're with somebody new and the kids are not his, he wants you all the time, but I wanted to be with my kids. I love my little babies. They're now 19 years old. My daughter runs my company. My son is the head of HR and he's a brilliant statistician. He just created his own NFT company, and they're beautiful beings who love and respect their mom because I dedicated 10 years to being mom, even though I was working. And then when I fell in love, when I decided it was time to fall in love and Joshua came along, they resented me a little bit for it. They don't really love him because he does take my time and attention and he does have his own world, but they're old enough now that it's okay.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is that I love that story more than the story of your successes because it makes you real, it makes you vulnerable, it makes you, for me, a more credible person that I want to trust.
yeah, it's I love sharing that. I love sharing a lot of the things about me that are not what you think, and cracking open this because the problem is we all look towards people. I've had a lot of imaginary mentors.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a bunch in person that have been spectacular, but I grew up watching other people and what Tony Robbins talks about in terms of modeling other people. And I've always done that. In fact, right out of college, because we grew up with no money, I was so curious what it was like. I used to stand in my dad's hospital room and overlook the only mansion we had in my hometown. It had a big circular driveway, big brick red house with 2 chimneys, and you couldn't see it from the street because it had all those cypress or rich people trees. But I would stand and I could look at it and I kept thinking, what is like Halloween like in their house or Christmas? What kind of, I was fascinated by this. Well, out of college, remember I said that magic newspaper? I found an ad for a social secretary for the Grace family. W.R. Grace were billionaires. And I applied. And they hired me. I'm not quite sure why. They knew I didn't know anything. But I was eager, I was fun, I was personable, and they let me be their social secretary. And we had dinner parties with barons and earls and princes, and I was so in over my head. And one day, this is in the early 80s, I'm sitting in the back of their Citroën car on the way to the country club, and Mrs. Grace says to me, when we get there, you need to take Louis Vuitton out of the trunk. And I'm like, who's in the trunk? And she's like, oh, you'll learn. And I'm like, oh, I will. That's why I'm here. I'm going to learn how to dress, how to do my nails, how to talk to people, how to do a proper dinner party. I felt like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. I didn't know shit. And I did learn. And I'm grateful to that experience because I took the time to make me who I wanted to be.
It's what I did too. I mean, my prior life, I owned a carpet cleaning business, and everybody's like, "Well, Rob, how does carpet cleaning relate to what you're doing now?" Well, I had to learn. I didn't know anything about marketing, and in 1998, I went to Arizona and met Joe Polish and Dan Kennedy and a bunch of other people, learned marketing, and now I'm teaching marketing to everybody. I'm writing books and I'm doing this. And, I had to reshape my life to make me what I wanted to be. And people were like, "I don't get it."
I wish I had spent time with Dan Kennedy. I didn't really know about that whole world, and it was expensive, and I didn't have money back then. Even Joe Polish and I have become friends, but I wish that I'd invest a little bit more time in some of those guys. I learned a lot later, and it took me a lot longer.
Yeah, but your story is inspirational, and I think that this is why people look up to you, because you don't give them the shiny object syndrome. You give them, hey, this is the rough edges. This is what you're going to need to do. This is how you do it. This is what happened to me when I did it, and you're just honest.
Well, I'm going to tell you one step further. So when my daughter started working with me, she had a moment where she said, Mom, I don't get all you entrepreneurs. I look at your desktop. You've got 52 different tabs open. You don't know how to do whatever. And every once in a while, I'll ask you what you're doing. You'll go Facebook. And she's like, I've got 8 classes. I'm a straight A student. How come you guys can't get this? You have no organizational system. So together we created a thing called GSD. This is my latest program that I'm working on pitching. It's called Get Shit Done.
Mm-hmm.
And we created a 5-step thing because every entrepreneur needs this. To get shit done, GSD an ebook, GSD an online course, GSD a funnel, GSD an email list, and GSD a hire, how you can delegate what you're doing. And I will tell you, I started promoting that on my Real Summit stages to the tune of thousands of students in the last 6 months, because we don't teach theory. We don't teach the what it could be tomorrow. It's like, no, put your mouse here. Here's how you brainstorm. Here's what you fill in. You press this button. You've got an lead magnet, an ebook lead magnet. Boom. Then I'm going to show you how to put that into a funnel, not airy-fairy. I'm going to show you how to do this. So at the end of 3 weeks, you have a product. You can make money, because I deal with so many men and women who, if they just made $300 to $500 extra a month, they'd be happy. They've never experienced anything. Yeah. And I'll tell you another little funny story. So when we started the online part, my daughter was truly the one who kicked my digital butt and got me to, now we're doing our funnels, right? The first time, and I knew what a webinar was. I've done infomercials, but I didn't understand the webinar thing and the back end. It just all seemed fuzzy to me. So the first night we do a webinar, there's 26 people in the class, right? Not big by most people's standards. It was $19 to get in. I was selling a $1,000 product. I woke up the next morning and there's 25K there. And I looked at McKenna and I said, what does the K stand for? Like, Mom, you made $25,000 last night. You sold 25 out of 26 people. I'm like, by the end of the month, we made 100K. And now a business that a 19-year-old and I own together has grossed over $2.2 million.
That's incredible.
Whoa, wait a sec. So you asked me why I teach? Because I can, because I figured it out. And I'll tell you what, at this age, I don't need to keep my own secrets. I want people to know these secrets. The secrets are that, 1, you got to get up every day and do it. Number 2, you got to find a mentor who knows more than you. Study, get all you can, and go on to your next mentor. Number 3, you got to learn how to pitch. And not a joke about what pitching is. Pitching is exciting, engaging, and enrolling people. I just signed up for a network marketing company. It sells this. I got to get you excited about it. I got to be engaging with you, let you know not that you need it, but why do you want a rock that says faith? Or why do you want a rock that says happiness? I'll tell you what, Rob, when you got a dark down moment at the end of a day and you just want to put your fist through the laptop and you go, happiness, happiness. And you're like, all right. And then you touch it and it's smooth. And you're like, all right, the world begins and ends with my boom. And then you enroll them. You say, guys, I'll tell you what, when you buy the big one, I'm going to give you a little one. You can have all the faith you want for free. And that's a pitch. But I get you to want it. And it's just not a secret to me, but it seems like a lot of other people just don't get it. Kind of like marketing was always there until your eyes were open to it. And didn't you like,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just at Disney World, and my wife and I did the whole VIP behind the scenes tour where we got to go in the tunnels and see all the back stuff. And now I know how the magic works. And people are like, well, aren't you unhappy about it now? I'm like, no, now I want more. It's like, and I think every single person that listens to this needs to go to your website, learn more about you, and just experience, how you pitch them. And it's not this whole Jedi mind trick stuff. It's storytelling. It's one step at a time. It's getting them to love the stuff before they even experience it.
Well, but I do have a Jedi mind trick. I'll tell you what, the other thing that my dad was a magician. And I will tell you something, that when you master this art of pitching, and by the way, every Sunday since COVID hit, I've been doing a 2-hour masterclass live because I love this. My fiance was in a horrible motorcycle accident 2 years ago, and I found a great solace in meeting people live and working on their pitches. But a lot of what I learned, because one, being an actress, two, studying the art of listening. That's what you do as an actress, but also learning presentational skills. So check this out. I'm going to play a little game with you that I think will delight you. Keep mentioning Jedi skills. All right, so I've got a notepad here with nothing on any of the pages. I'm going to, let's see. All right. I'm going to write something here. And guys, we're doing this live. We did not plan this. I'm going to take this one piece of paper here, just one, and I'm going to stick it right there so you can see it the whole time. I'm not going to change it. And I've got, it's very challenging to do this long distance. So I'm going to take things that are on my desk. So I have a rock on my desk. I have, I have a card, birthday card with shoes on it. I have some sunglasses. My future is so bright that I
Gotta wear shades.
There you go. I have a SpinGYM. I have a mouse, and I have a red pen. Okay, that's a lot of things. What I would like you to do, Mr. Rob, it's hard. I would like you to name any three of those.
Name them?
Yeah, just call out three of them.
Mouse, glasses, and SpinGYM.
Okay, so mouse, glasses, and SpinGYM. We're taking away hope. Gone. Gone is the red Sharpie, and gone is the high heel, although your wife would love that card.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've got mouse, SpinGYM, and glasses. Will you name any two objects?
Mouse and SpinGYM.
Mouse and SpinGYM. All right, keep naming them. I keep taking away, leaving a pair of sunglasses on the little pad here. Now, there were 6 items, very random on my desk. You didn't even know what they were, but somehow I wrote down what would be here. If it says sunglasses, you're going to go, oh my God, really? And let's see what I have in this hand. It says, boom. Maybe she is a Jedi Master. Oh. Come on, seriously? They are so bright. But I'll tell you what, that's part of what I learned from my dad. And people go, well, how do you do that? I actually teach that trick in my training, because there's 3 or 4 different sales techniques involved in that one trick that I think are essential. And when you own pitching, you know what you have, Rob? You have a sense of confidence. You know how to communicate, and you're very clear. And I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Do you find that they're messy in their message? They're not good at communicating?
Yeah, especially lawyers and doctors, because they've all gone to this Vulcan school of no emotion, so there's no personality. And so I try to get them to get that personality out and you know, bring it out so it's their brand. It's what people get used to, and it's so hard to try to mold them.
Well, if you ever want to, you and I can tag team, because it sounds like we're different sides of the same coin. I'd be happy to have that conversation. I'm going to send you a SpinGYM. You're going to send me a share book so I know.
I'm going to send you a whole bunch of books.
Oh, no. All right. This was great. I love that we've connected, and I'm excited for all the people who listen to this.
Yeah, well, how do they get a hold of you? Where do they go?
Just go to ForbesRiley.com, and I'm all over social media. Love being on Facebook and Instagram. Everything's got my name on it. And one of my favorite platforms, if you're ever popping live to a room in Clubhouse, man, that is such a profound platform for me. But ForbesRiley.com.
And you can check her out on YouTube and everywhere.
I know I have that. Yes, we have to look at that tattoo video of how he tattooed his out. Oh. Hey, so for you, what do you love? Why do you love what you do?
Why do I love what I do?
Yeah.
You know, I'm changing entrepreneurs' lives one entrepreneur at a time. You know, and people are like, well, Rob, you got to have these huge lists and do this and do that. I'm like, I only need to have one name on a list that buys from me. You know, I'm not, and you know, I'm kind of anti-conventional when it comes to some of the marketing wisdom that they throw out there. But you know, I do things my way. I do things with a very sarcastic take on life, and you know, you either like me or you don't like me. And the Rob Versus books were designed to either attract. If you love humor, you're gonna love me. If you don't like them, you're never gonna be my customer, my client. So, you know.
You know, I hosted the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles for 3 years. Here's what, again, talk about a very eclectic career. I was doing this kind of stand-up comedy thing at ski resorts, and one day there was this open call at the Laugh Factory. I'd never been to a comedy club, but I thought, again, a newspaper ad. And I walked in, and there was nobody there. I guess I waited until like the very last minute. It was like 4 o'clock on a Sunday, and there's nobody there but the 2 people auditioning. And I walked in. I was wearing a dress, carrying pants. And I said, can I go to the bathroom? They're like, well, sure. I said, yeah, I need to change into my pants. I can't be funny in a dress. They're like, get on stage. And I did whatever I do, and it's very quick and off the top of my head. And the owner comes down, he's a small Israeli named Jamie, and he's like, "Come here. I like you. I want you to be my host every Friday, Saturday night." Okay, yeah, go. I'm like, go. I show up on Friday. I don't know what to do. I've never been to a comedy club, so Rita Rudner had a comedy routine in my Cosmo magazine, so I memorized that. And I got up on stage and I did Rita Rudner's comedy take on going to a gym, and I got a lot of laughs. But at the end of it, Jamie's like, "Come here." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm being funny." He's like, "No, I did not hire you to be funny." He said, "You get on stage without a thought in your head, ask somebody where they're from, and let Jerry Seinfeld and Robin Williams, they're funny." And I'm like, "Oh my God." For 3 years, I was the host of the Laugh Factory.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
I have this crazy, I do want to do a one-woman show at some point about all the stories I've never had time to tell.
But here's the thing is that you have taken your skills, your experience, and you've jumped from one thing to another, to another, to another, and you've never missed a beat. You've always been open to the opportunity where most entrepreneurs are stuck doing one thing for the rest of their lives. And that is boring.
Thank you. And I think the thing that I like about you is you need a sarcastic sense of humor to get through this life. It's just too challenging and
Well,
daunting.
I wrote a whole bunch of books and they were all serious and they taught people stuff. And people were like, "Well, Rob, you're sharing all these sarcastic stories about you dealing with scammers on Facebook. Turn it into a book." I'm like, "Okay." So I did.
Funny.
And it's just me dealing with scammers and morons and lousy customer service and wackadoos and I have 5 books in the series. I have 2 more coming out, and
I'm excited to read this.
they're just funny.
Now, have you turned it into a stage show?
Yeah, now it may be a comedic TV show that's coming up. So we're working on scripting now for that, and it's just everybody's like, "Well, Rob, everything just comes to you. You're just lucky." No, I'm not. I've been doing this for 27 years.
Yeah, that's a way to diminish somebody's life. You're just lucky.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that luck is, opportunity meets preparation. We're both very lucky.
Yeah, and I'm very honored that you brought on the show, and I think the audience is really going to love this, and well, I hope so. I hope they call you, and I hope they buy thousands of SpinGYMs from you, and we're
Got to tell you, at 62, I got rocking arms because of one
Yeah.
thing. My crazy product. But I will tell you, I have a great mastermind. If you want to come on and do a little piece of what you do, Rob versus, that would be very funny.
I'd be
Who knows,
honored.
right? Come on, back at you. I'll give you some opportunity to have some fun.
And so everybody, I like I said, head on over to ForbesRiley.com, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much, my friend.